morning, everybody. Hope you're having a good weekend. I don't do a lot of shows on Sunday, but I'm going to start doing them now, and I'll give you a reason why. I have the ideal co-host to do it with. Number one, Jeremy Ballrick. Jeremy, you
How
and I,
you doing there?
you and I have a brand new show that we hope everybody will gravitate to. It's called The Professor and the Pupil. Wonder who the professor is, and wonder who the pupil is.
I've been trying to figure it out the whole morning.
Oh yeah, well, I had no trouble figuring it out because I went out there and put it all together, and I'm just so happy to go out there and do that. I like Mark Malak, Super Bowl or bust. All right,
That's
well,
my Lions guy.
there
You
you
know
go.
that.
There's your Lions, Mark. Thanks for being on here, my friend. I got news for you. If there's ever a time when that topic is more appropriate, it is now. But I can promise you, my friend Mark, our show will be Super Bowl, and it will not be a bust if I have anything to say about it. All right.
Amen.
Well, with that said, let's get serious for a moment here. Although I don't know how many opportunities I will, anyways. But let's go with the flow regardless. So, I do want to point out that you can find our show here on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, and as the show picks up more and more audio providers, we'll go ahead and indicate that as well. Also, check out our website www.southfloridatribune.com, and also you can find me on Twitter at Tribune South. Jeremy, why don't you give everybody your Twitter information?
At Smoking Jeremy P. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Facebook at the Motor City Kneecap Biters, or underneath my name if you want to be friends and talk more sports in my off time. Look that name up on Facebook.
And I want to let everybody know that the Professor and the Pupil is being broadcast around the world, especially via YouTube. So our show will get a lot of traction immediately. But this is a show that talks about the various trending topics in and out of the sports world. It will include a lot of non-major sports such as bowling, billiards, auto racing, tennis, golf, pickleball, cornhole, fishing, etc. The guests are actually going to come from the non-major sports. We can, in my opinion, consider soccer from an American standpoint doesn't stack up like the four major, although we know that soccer is an incredible worldwide sport. And we're going to even talk a little bit of soccer later on as we go along. And I should point out that we're hardcore hunters, aiming to be different. And this hat that I'm wearing, I ended up going out there and wearing it when my Aunt Judy died of COVID-19. And I always dedicate every show, Aunt Judy, I love you very much. It's very appropriate that I get to have this hat on, introducing a new show. I know that hopefully you'll be proud of it up in heaven. But this is just something that we really feel is necessary. Everybody can talk about the major sports, Jeremy, okay? But let's talk about the underdogs, okay, that don't get the publicity out there. And that's what we're aiming for down the line. 2 or 3 topics, and let the other ones talk about. It's a market that I think is untapped, and I truly believe in my mind that it's worth dealing with. Some thoughts.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, bowling, billiards, fishing. I mean, I'm not going to throw golf in there because it is a major sport. It's
Right.
just not as watched. Why? I have my own opinion on that, but that's not for the air.
Right.
But
No,
that being said, it is what it is. And plus, now you got the Live joining up with the PGA and everything else, and it has a lot of people up in arms because they try to go to the political side of it, and it's not political; it's sports, it's money.
right. Well, we all know that now that you brought up something interesting, we'll touch on it for just a moment. The idea behind the Live and PGA merger was you just want to unify the sport, and there's no way the PGA could go out there and keep up financially with them, especially with legal things. One of these days we'll approach this as a topic later, certainly not on today's agenda. All right, so now that we've told you what this show is going to be about, and again, we will emphasize non-major sports and bring on guests that will certainly be more than happy to come on to promote their sport. Let's get on to today's topics. Okay, we'll talk about the Indy 500, Daytona 500, the Kentucky Derby, one event in these sports everyone pays attention to in their respective sports. Let's not kid ourselves, they're the biggest events on their respective calendars. So, all right, Jeremy, what do you think about that?
You can call them what you want. You can call them the granddaddy of their sports, but what they really are is the viewing equivalent of the Super Bowl for those
Right.
sports. It is the most watched thing on watched, listened to, searched, wanted to attend. It's a bucket list for most people, any one of those 3 things. So that being said, It is what it is. It's their Super Bowl.
Yeah, I talked to a lot of NASCAR people, wondered why they had at the beginning. They said, you know what, coming off the other Super Bowl, it gives our sport the best momentum early on in the year. And when I talked to so many people about it, I had to admit, for a while I wondered, but I wasn't wondering. I understood their marketing intentions about, if you've ever been to Daytona International Speedway, it's a place you have to go. I've been fortunate to cover, I went there once as a fan for a Daytona 500 with my ex-wife Susan, and then this year I took Candy Ebling, my wife. We went there, but we covered the Rolex 24, which I'll get into in a little while. So and I've actually been fortunate enough to go to an Indianapolis 500 a couple of times as a fan, and have yet to make it to Kentucky Derby. Maybe one day, perhaps I will. But the main thing is I understand why each and every one of them, whether, like I mentioned, the Indy 500, the Kentucky Derby, Daytona, they're incredible events to go to. And you're right, Jeremy, bucket list all the way. And they're incredibly at places which are extremely historical. All right, well, let's talk about the big news of the week. Lionel Messi signing with Inter Miami. Well, let me just tell you this, okay? This will not be a situation where Lionel Messi becomes a miracle worker, but it will be a moneymaker. Bear in mind, as we talked about earlier in the week on the Sports Exchange, prior to Messi's arrival, they're charging $29 a ticket. And when they ended up bringing in Messi, it'll be $477 a ticket.
You
That's
got to
a
pay them somehow.
steep price, okay? But here's where I really want to touch base on the Inter Miami thing. Go after last night's loss, the team is in the Eastern Conference. They're 15th and they're 5-12, and they have an interim coach. So I know it's going to create a lot of buzz. South Florida is an area where you can stir up a lot of buzz. But do I think he gets to the playoffs by the time July 21 gets? I would highly doubt it unless they get on an incredible winning streak, which to me would be the equivalent to an Oakland A's winning streak, which we all know if you're following MLB. Okay, the A's have had a tough season. Of course, they're in transition because they're obviously looking to move to Vegas. But let's talk about the effects of, Jeremy, the Lionel Messi effect here in South Florida.
What it will do is if someone can get him the ball, he'll be able to score goals. But evidently, they don't pass very well. They don't defend very well because you can't be 5-12 and good at your sport.
Right.
So, and with an interim coach that probably has trouble finding his butt with both hands on the map,
right,
it's going to be a rough road to hoe. Will it equal more wins? It'll probably equal to 2 to 3 more wins a month just because he's able to score goals.
But you're getting the 35-year-old Lionel Messi. I don't think that 35, the way these guys are conditioned, is a big deal. But you're talking about a guy who definitely is capitalizing on his opportunity to have success financially with Apple, as well as the MLS push for this as well. Yeah. So I've never seen him play except in the World Cup. He's a great player, and this guy can write his own ticket. But he's coming to South Florida. He's pairing up with David Beckham as well. So, I think that maybe, and I understand they have a coach that they're talking about anyways, bringing in that's familiar with Messi. We're on the media distribution list for Inter Miami. So once that information is out there, we'll certainly continue to follow up on this story. But I mean, hey, I'm happy for Inter Miami that they got a world-class player. This is a team that plays at Dry Pink Stadium, which is 19,100. It's one of the best facilities I have ever seen with a 19,000 seat venue. I know that it was initially intended for their training team, or what we call the AAA team, and I know they're destined to move down to Miami, where a lot of them will be. But they have some of the unbelievable crowds. I went to a bunch of games last year, and let me tell you, the way those soccer fans in South Florida are passionate to me, it just blows me away. I know at times I've seen them outdraw the Florida Panthers, who we'll get to in a moment. And the Marlins obviously have their base down in Miami, downtown Miami, near the airport. But I'm going to tell you one thing, these Inter Miami fans are really good. And they're getting a player to watch. Does that translate into success on the field? We'll find out. But I know one thing, they're going to win at the gate for sure. no matter what happens. Any closing thoughts on this?
It will equal something next year when they have a valid head coach. But
Right.
this year, it's just going to be a ticket direct draw and a money grab, not only for Messi, but for MLS and the team. I don't know if they do the ticket sharing like they do in other sports, but if they do, the whole league gets a win because Messi is a big time athlete. He is one of those guys that keeps himself in shape, so he should come in ready to run right away.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. You're talking about what he's going to draw Inter Miami. Okay. What do you think he's going to do for teams around the MLS? I mean, can you imagine what the ticket prices are going to be in respect to those road markets? I mean, that's
Well,
unreal.
it really depends on the value of that team that they
Right.
play against. But it's no different than like when the Lions play the Green Bay Packers, that ticket price is double what it is when you play anybody else in the
Right.
division. It's because that's your hated rival. Then they're a good team, and we have to beat them. So they double that ticket price for a reason.
Well, it's a gate attraction. But the road teams are going to make out well. The league will make out well. Inter Miami will definitely make out well because we're talking about not only being able to raise the ticket price, but what about merchandise sales? That's another animal. And this
Oh yeah,
organization, yeah, this organization could use a good influx of money coming in from a superstar caliber guy like this. I think it's been rumored for a long time, but he evaluated his options by going in Saudi Arabia, and then he also considered going back to Barcelona. And obviously, there was a 99,000 seat stadium at Barcelona, but he's coming to the United States, and he's going to be a draw. And I wish Inter Miami well that it translates to success on the field. Time will tell. All right.
he was smart picking his team because now he has no state income tax for the money he makes here.
Yeah, that's a good point. No state income tax in Florida as well. You can play for a lot of money out in Los Angeles, Jeremy. But if you're getting gouged on the tax side or you come down to Miami,
16%.
yeah, well, you think about it. The places that
California is 16%. Michigan's 11. There are places that are in between, but California and Hawaii are the highest income tax states.
really no kidding. Well, think about it. If you're going to Texas, Nashville, well, Nevada, and Florida, you're going to make out much better than most people would realize. All right. Next topic in NBA and NHL finals. Both South Florida teams are both number 8 seeds. The Miami Heat and Florida Panthers are down 3-1 in their respective series to the Denver Nuggets and the Vegas Golden Knights, respectively. Now, here's the thing that I don't like about what we're seeing here. We talked about ticket gouging. Okay, the Florida Panthers slash Florida Live Arena are gouging fans for parking at $100. I think that's absolutely absurd. I think that this move will bite them next year. I really do believe you're going to you go out there and bite the hand that feeds you, and then you're going to charge them $100 just to park. I don't like it. I think it's going to bite them later. What do you think?
Well, I've said this about football, I've said it about baseball, and now I can say it about hockey and basketball. The playoffs are not for the average fan. The average fan cannot afford the ticket prices, the parking, the food increase, because there is an increase on food. Beers at normal game are somewhere between $8 and $10. Playoff time, they're 15 to 20. They double.
Right.
Your hot dog, $6 during a regular game, $12 playoffs. It's the ticket pricing. Nosebleeds are $150 throughout the season, no matter what. Sometimes they're less, sometimes they're more, but that's the median. Playoff time, a Super Bowl ticket for the NFL was $3,000 for third level, the nosebleeds.
Right.
$3,000? That's not the average fan. The average fan can't afford to take his family to that.
Right.
You're talking about a year's salary for the average fan.
Right.
And I find it ridiculous. And yes, they will lose that playoff attendance going forward.
Yeah.
It'll be only the stars that come out to shine. It'll be just like LA.
Well, I'm predicting that both these series figure to come to an end this week. Anyways, I think the
I
Vegas
say
Golden.
tonight.
No, not tonight because they don't play.
Neither one of them?
No, I don't think so. I think they're Monday and Tuesday, but you can
Are they?
correct me on that. Doesn't matter. No, No, and part of that's attributed to the way the travel is. It used to be 2-3-2. I believe it's 2-2-1-1-1 with the extra travel day. But I expect both series to come to an end by next week. I think Vegas comes out firing. I think they're looking to close out the Panthers, and I believe that they will. And same holds true with the Miami Heat getting closed up with the Nuggets. But the thing with the Nuggets is Nikola Jokic, who's been actually plays on the West Coast. The Nuggets are just way too good for Miami. I give the Miami Heat a lot of credit. They have the heart of a lion. I've never seen a team play with so much heart and energy. And that's a bipartisan of Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra with the culture that they've built there. So Miami Heat, to me, they've done some unbelievable work. They really, really have. And the Florida Panthers, I'll tell you what, a year ago they were the President's Cup trophy winners, and to be able to beat the team, the Boston Bruins, the President's Cup trophy winners, and in 7 games, at least I know Paul Maurice can go out there and say, hey, you know what? We've done it before, and we've done it again. All right, Candy Ebling, Monday night Heat game and Tuesday night Panthers. Thank you, Candy. Appreciate the clarification. So Paul Maurice has done a good job, unbelievable job for that matter, taking a team that was a previous type of team there. And, I'm proud of, hey, listen, this has been an unbelievable week when you think of what has happened in the area. You get Messi, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, Messi signing, the Heat and the Panthers are very much alive. And you know what? Let's take it another level here, okay? And that's this, Jeremy. How about the Miami Hurricanes and the Florida Atlantic Owls?
Oh, yeah.
We'll run to the Final Four.
And not only that, throwing the Florida Marlins and how good they're playing right now.
Yeah, and you know what? And I cover the Marlins. I go down there. Jeremy, go to the chat room. The Marlins, to me, are really, I'm impressed with what Kim Ng has done with Skip Schumacher, okay? It really has, and I am so proud. Hey, listen, this is a team I take a really fondness toward. I love baseball. The communications department is treating me absolutely phenomenal. And, I can tell you right now, it's hard. If the Marlins can put together a consistent winner, don't forget that the Orange Bowl once upon a time attracted 70,000 fans. This stadium is half that size. All the Marlins have to do is win sustainably. We're not asking to win a World Series. Get in the playoffs year in and year out, and you might be able to go out there and recreate that fan base. You don't want anybody to associate you with, to me, a situation where you're a dumpster fire. And if the Marlins can shake that stigma, then don't put nothing past them. I'm looking forward to, as the year goes on, Jeremy, to see how much better they're getting. But the Marlins, to me, have already exceeded my expectations early on as we speak on June 11th. And I'm really anxious to see, as over the next several weeks and months, how much better this team gets with a good quality manager who came in, picked out with a great baseball mind that can relate to today's players. And the Marlins draft awfully well. The Marlins are looking to go out there and do what the Tampa Bay Rays are able to do and develop. But the main thing is, will they be able to keep the players? I hope so. The Miami Marlins, to me, are a diamond in the rough. They really are. And they can polish if they can have a few consistent years. All right, go to the chat room, Jeremy.
All right, we got Michael Conman Conseco coming in. How are you doing, Scott? Hope all is well. Would love to be on your show talking NBA Finals. Andy Ebling did reiterate that the Heat game is Monday night and Tuesday night is the Panthers. And my buddy from Kneecap Biting with Detroit Lions, Mark Malik, says still Super Bowl or bust.
Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in on this Sunday morning. Again, my name is Scott Morganoff, Motor City Man Mouth. Please be my co-host on this show, Jeremy Ballreich. We do the Professor and the Pupil. Why do we have the Professor and the Pupil? One guy's been in the business forever. One's learning it, but he's learning fast. Jeremy reminds me of one of those Evelyn Wood speed reading courses, but he's the Evelyn Wood of broadcasting. I've had this guy in my system for 10 months. I really wasn't sure if I'd ever bring on another co-host or not, but there's something about Jeremy Ballreich that I can tell with his dedication to what we're doing here, that he was the right guy for me to bring on as a co-host. And he's done so well on every show, everywhere he's brought on. that to me, Jeremy Ballreich should be considered in parentheses no brainer. Okay, I know you have your kneecap biting, but we'll just call you no brainer because bringing you on was an absolute slam dunk. And yeah, if we're talking NBA or we're talking about Grand Slam, whatever, all the good analogies, then I'm building your ego up to be Jeremy. No, I didn't build it up. You did that on your own, but whatever. Any closing thoughts about what we've seen in South Florida? Again, I like the Denver Nuggets. This team is awfully good.
Yeah, I predicted it immediately. I didn't think the Heat had the talent, top to bottom, to compete with the defense and the everything that's going on. And look at that, our buddy George Eichhorn, keep up the good work. He popped in the chat.
Yeah, well, again, you know what? The Miami Heat, what they did to me in this playoff run is incredible. And, didn't fare well from the Boston Celtics because their coach got to, the Boston Celtics coach gets another year, okay? I believe that's what Joel Mazzulo, I believe it is, but they'll have to retool that roster. And let's talk about the Milwaukee Bucks that made a coaching change as well. So,
I kind of hated that because that guy just had them in the winning of the finals not too long ago,
yeah,
and a guy making it to the finals and losing is way different than winning it, and he won it with Giannis, the Greek freak.
yeah,
It's a shame. I'm sorry. He deserved another year at least. He had a lot going on personally, and I think that's what affected his coaching during that this playoff run this year. So maybe people need to lay off a little bit when there's a little bit of failure with somebody that has a personal tragedy.
Well, I'll tell you right now, the Miami Heat story is not only overachieving to get where they're at, but what you have right now, to me, is a situation where the Miami Heat are sending coaches to the unemployment line. So continue in the chat room.
Yep. Michael Casico comes in. Great show, guys. I'm having Nate Archibald on my show in a couple of weeks. That's a nice guess.
Yeah, very good, Michael.
Yep.
All right. All right. Well, now we get to have an opportunity to talk about some other sports that most people probably won't. But as I reiterated at the top of the broadcast, we're going to be talking about some different things. And we're going to talk about death of billiards on TV gambling. All right. Go ahead, Jeremy. Tell me why you created this subject.
Well, there was two things that happened, and it was right around 1984. Um, they started producing a movie about gambling based off the first movie about gambling about pool with Fast Eddie Felson, also known as Paul Newman. His co-host in this movie played Vinny or Vincent, Tom Cruise. It was a great movie, great story, but it was more about the hustle and the gambling behind the scenes to get to that big show. The other thing that happened that year was there was a trick show. It used to be Trick Shot Magic is what it was called, and that was the professional artistic pool where they do all the trick shots like you saw in the commercial with just had his name in it. Steve, the one that did the light beer commercial.
I
You
don't
know who
know.
he did a trick shot where the pool ball massaged around. Mike
Jeremy,
Nasty.
that's another time ago when you talk about light beer commercials because those were the best commercial campaigns and they were way ahead of their time. Just think about for a minute, okay? Not taking away from your
Less
train of
filling
thought.
tastes great.
No, I'm saying if you had light beer commercials in this day and age, golly, as Gomer Powell would say. I mean, really.
Mm-hmm. So you go back to those, and these guys were great and fantastic. But the guy who ran the league ran off with money and gambled it away, which destroyed that league for a few years. It's built itself back up. It's still there. Billiards is still popular. As a matter of fact, Michigan is a hotbed for amateur billiards. I mean, there's more tournaments in Michigan than there is in some states. And professionally, it's still called the PBA, the Professional Billiards Association. It's the PBA, excuse me, World Professional Billiards Association. They have their artistic pool stuff. I was blessed and honored to have currently number 2 in the world be my landlord, who I took pool lessons from. But that gambling that they portrayed in the movies and the stuff that happened. That's why you don't see those tournaments from the Mohegan Sun anymore. You don't see the stuff from Atlantic City. You don't see the stuff in Vegas. Um, the biggest draw right now still is the APA. Gets more members than any other billiards league out there, and they are in Vegas twice a year for their championships, one for 9-ball, one for 8-ball. And we're talking over 70,000 players from across the United States and around the world attend that. And then you got the Moscone Cup, where you got the best professional billiards players in America versus the best professional billiards players in Eastern Europe or Western Europe.
It's amazing. You know, Minnesota Fats, as I remember, okay, was a real, and was it, who was Moscone's first name? I'm trying to remember.
Willie Moscone.
Willie Moscone. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So to me, to talk about Minnesota Fats and Willie Moscone, this is exactly what we're trying to do, folks, is prove, okay, that these sports really matter. But Willie Moscone and Minnesota Fats, we're just going to scratch the surface on this. So I think that to me, I watch billiards. I think it's pretty interesting. One of the most unbelievable recreational names on the planet, games on the planet. Who knows? It's just.
Let me correct myself because I just remembered. The book, The Color of Money, was written in 1984. 1991, the movie came out. And it was shortly after that when you seen Poole disappear off of ABC and the wide world of sports started disappearing. And then later on, it was disappeared off of ESPN. Now, most of what you get to see in the billiards world is on YouTube.
Really? No kidding. Well, let me tell you, with YouTube becoming what it is, you know what? All these other sports that we're talking about, okay, Jeremy, it just fascinates the living daylights. I mean, you know, one of the shows I used to like watching many years ago was on ABC called American Sportsman. That was a great show. I think they used to air it on Sunday too. So, you know, we're not going to say we're American sportsmen on here because I do want to reiterate, if you're just joining us right now, that we're going to be talking a lot of non-sports subjects as well. If you guys out there think that we're a sports show, we do a lot of sports, okay, but we're going to be talking non-sports as well. I want the professor and the pupil to be a very well-rounded broadcast, so everybody can come in here
and we got a
talk
couple of guys in the chat here.
Right
Mitch
ahead.
Weinstein comes in, said you guys are great. Ralph Williams says good morning. Mitch Weinstein comes back with 2 more comments. Do you think either the Heat or the Panthers have the chance? Heat, no. Panthers, maybe, because they did it against Boston.
Yeah,
so
you know what?
I think that's exactly where I'm at. I'm not counting the Panthers out because they've already done it this year.
Right. And that's what their coach, Paul Maurice, said too. And he's using that as a way to motivate his team. You don't need to motivate your team in the playing for the Stanley Cup, but you can always go out there and talk about the fact that we were down 3-1. And let's take it back a long ways. I think the only time that a team in the Stanley Cup Finals came back was when the Toronto Maple Leafs beat the Detroit Red Wings back in the 1940s. So it has happened. It's not like you have a 0 and whatever.
Right. It's not like it's never happened in basketball, and it's not going to start now.
Right. But my point is in hockey, it has. If it's
Right.
done one time, it can be done. Okay. And
Right.
we all know about the Boston Red Sox, New York Yankees, the 3-0, and we all know that the Red Sox proceeded to win the Super Bowl. So yeah, I'll reiterate with you. I think the Heat are just simply overmatched, and the Panthers have a fighting chance. And bear in mind, the last 2 games here in Sunrise have been decided by a goal.
Right. It's not been
in
the blowout.
overtime,
The first 2. Yep. The first game, Vegas just outmatched them in every way. They outshot them. They outscored them. They had more scoring chances, and they dominated time of possession on the ice.
Yeah, well, bear in mind, again, the Panthers got outclassed in Las Vegas 2 times, but an overtime winner made it, I believe, 2-1. And then last night, although I have to tell you, the Panthers were the beneficiary of a little bit of luck when you had that one goal that went off at 2 Vegas gates and behind their goaltender. But it doesn't matter.
I've seen some crazy stuff in hockey, like that first guy that flipped the puck up from behind the net. And how that wasn't high sticking, I don't know. but to be able to wrap it around and just tuck it behind the goalie without him even seeing you is an amazing trick.
Yeah, maybe it is, but I'll tell you what, the Panthers were given a little bit of luck when, you're talking about a team that was down 3-0. Vegas came out like gangbusters, but the Florida Panthers didn't quit. They just kept staying with it. And I'll tell you what, it got so dramatic toward the end, it was decided within a couple seconds. So yeah, the Cats are fighting. They're fighting hard. I've always believed that they've really overachieved as it has the Heat. So it's pretty hard to go against you on this sense that let's not kid yourself. The Denver Nuggets are a heck of a team, and most of us are seeing them on the East Coast and realize how good Jamal Crawford
Jamal
and
Murphy.
yeah, was it
Murphy.
Oh, Murphy? All right,
Murray, or
Jamal
Murray
Murray.
or Murphy. I know it's something
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
okay. Hey, Jamal. Okay, sorry, folks,
Yep.
about my NBA knowledge. I do know it well enough. I did in the Bad Boys era, but there's no kidding about Nikola Jokic, as they call it, Joker.
And,
Those guys are an incredible 1-2 punch.
and
I think they have a little bit too much over Miami Heat, but Panthers, you never know. All right.
Murray.
Mitch
Okay.
Weinstein, thank you very much for clarifying. It was Jamal Murray.
But Mitch Weinstein, he says, my grandfather, R.T. Winters, was a pro billiards player that played both Willie Mosconi and Minnesota Fat. And then he also said LOL at what I said about the playoff teams. And he did correct Murray. And my guy, Ken Ballrick, my dad, I call him Smoking Dad on my show, comes in and says, hey, guys.
There you go. Sundays, we might be onto something, Jeremy, with these Sunday shows. I'm telling you, I kind of like them, really. It gets we start their day on a positive note. Go out there, have a good time wherever you're at, whether you're out at the beach, whether you're out at the park, or whatever. We want to make sure we start you off on the right morning here on The Professor and the Pupil. So now, all right, last major topic of the day, and this appeared in the South Florida Tribune on May 31st at IMSA, International Motor Sports Association, is reaching 580 million homes globally. And, I was amazed at the worldwide coverage at the Daytona International Speedway. And I've also covered the Sebring, the 12 hours of Sebring. So you have the Rolex 24 and the 12 hours of Sebring. And I'm going to tell you, Jeremy, and everybody out there, that I will be actually going out there and doing more IMSA events going forward. Now, the fascinating part, though, about IMSA is that there's a lot of money with the various manufacturers and the different styles of cars that they have. Lots of endurance racing, which I intend to cover more. But IMSA, in a sense, reminds me of Live a little bit because there's so much money and it's a team-oriented type of thing. We all talk about Live golfing, teams, and captains. I'll tell you, when you got 2, 3, 4 drivers, a vehicle going for so many hours, and I really enjoyed my time with the Sebring, but the Rolex 24, if that didn't enlighten me, then I don't know what does. IMSA to me is the biggest kept secret. And here's something that was interesting too. When I was over at the Daytona International Speedway, the parking was really, really, really tough because my Candy and I had to park across the track, because there's so much worldwide coverage. In fact, I'll even talk about an example. Then when I was doing a couple shows with Mark Mancini, there were some internet issues and connectivity issues. Well, what do you want when you have so many people at a worldwide event? We're not talking domestic, folks. We're talking worldwide. And it's safe to say I never did any more shows with Mancini at that particular track because it was just too difficult to make anything happen. But my top focus at that particular point was, you know what? This is an unbelievable event, something I wanted to do. And I'm hooked on major endurance racing. So I guess the crux of the whole thing here, Jeremy, is there is so much money in the IMSA. I'm fascinated by the conditioning, the drivers, and different style cars. One day I'd like to take you down to one of these events so you can appreciate everything that is. But folks, if you follow IMSA, go out there and do it. It's the best kept secret in auto racing. Any thoughts, Jeremy?
Well, IMSA, these cars are designed for those races. They're not just a stock car that's made over or anything else like you have in NASCAR and some of the other lesser sports like it used to be called Busch National Series. I don't know what they're called now, Craftsman Truck Series and all that. Those are just stock cars with a souped up engine, and 90% of their races is go fast and turn left. IMSA is is like a minor version of Formula One.
Yeah, actually it is.
So
Gosh,
a little shorter wheelbase, not as big of wings allowed because there's more restrictions on how much speed and how much power they can have in those cars. But it's amazing. Most of them are 4 and 6 cylinder engines in these cars, and they're faster than any V8 they could ever put in a NASCAR car
well, that's nothing to laugh about. You're right. Here's the
because
thing.
it's a bullet.
Listen, Jeremy, when you're dealing with Ferrari as Mitch Weinstein, in fact, I'm going to put that one on the screen. I really like that. Should probably put a lot of them up there. But Ferrari wins the Le Mans. Okay, yeah, I wouldn't put nothing past that at all by any means.
And he
So
also asked us a question real quick.
what's that?
Jamal Murray or the Joker for MVP, and he says co-MVP, and I completely agree because there was a game where Murray disappeared and Jokic took over to win, and then in that game that Miami did win, Jokic was the only one that was scoring on that team.
Right. Yeah, I think he had over 40 points. I'm going to go through the chat room so that people that are watching on YouTube can see some of the great questions that we're getting hit with right now. And this one here I really like by Mitch Weinstein. He said, my grandfather already winners was a pro billiards player that played both Willie and Minnesota. That's pretty neat. All right, let's continue on. All right, let's see what else we got.
You're talking about Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, Honda. What's the other one that has a car? Well, Honda owns Acura also, so that's still the same. I think Toyota has a team. Um,
Well, the bottom line is
Mercedes
this.
Benz.
Here's the thing.
It's expensive.
When
to
you got
design these cars.
Ferrari, listen, Jeremy, when you got Ferrari, you got Lamborghini, right? Rolls Royce and Mercedes Benz, let alone another 15 manufacturers. How do you spell money? That way.
How do you smell money? You can't even spell it. It's smell it.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. That's what you call the great minds think alike portion of the broadcast.
And then also, don't forget that gas. Regular fuel that we buy, we're complaining at $3.79 a gallon to $3.29 a gallon for the national average right now. You're talking about this stuff is raised up where it's $6.50 to $10 a gallon because it's a 118. It's one step down from jet fuel.
All right. Well, I mean, so let me ask you a question, Jeremy. We're talking about IMSA, okay? And I know you're learning about these things and over the course as the show develops. Doesn't IMSA fascinate you probably as much, if not more so, than some of the other four major sports that we're
doing? IMSA, NHRA, those ones are ones I really like. And the IHRA, which is still drag racing. I love drag racing. I used to go to the Mid-Michigan Motorplex here to watch it every year, but that place is starting to fall apart because the money isn't there for the spectators. People don't buy the tickets anymore like they used to. And it's a shame.
Well, here, I'll tell you what, our man Mitch is on a roll. We're going to let him roll. Audi, yeah, they're pretty good. A lot of money.
But it's Porsche Audi.
Yeah, we're getting that one too. Well, oops, it doesn't matter. Whatever.
And Mercedes-Benz is also part owner of Dodge. So will Dodge ever get a car designed? Because that's Daimler Chrysler, and Daimler owns Mercedes-Benz.
My goodness. There you go, folks. IMSA, I'll be calling you. I'm on their mailing list, by the way. Folks, if you want to go out there and see some good IMSA material, go to southfloridatribune.com and you'll find them under our media distribution partners. I have so many articles that IMSA sends us. It's just incredible stuff. And every time I see their stuff, it's hard to keep track of every qualifying race or anything. I try to get the winners out on social media, but some of the things that you read with the feature stories are just unbelievable and overwhelming. So, all right.
Some guy with a weird name that writes for the Motor City Tribune on that site too. His stuff's there.
Who?
Oh yeah, Jeremy Ballrick. That's me.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I've had some other people who can't write good content. It takes a while to edit, and no knock against anybody that does do it at all by any means. But one thing I like about your content, it's very brief so that we're able to leave more over. And I'm not listen, I don't put a word count on anybody that goes out there and writes for us. It's not the right thing to do, but we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to say what's on their mind. And King SJ, hey guys.
Yep, okay. That's another one of my guys.
All right, so I want to point out something I haven't had an opportunity to do. So if you want to be a guest here on this show, Professor and the Pupil, or any of our other shows, all you got to do is simply participate in the chat room. And when I take notice of you enough, I'll have no problem putting inviting on here. But the main requirement to be a guest on our show is, folks, please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. If you're going to be a part of the show, we want to make sure you believe in what your mind and heart are telling you. So please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. That's that is our requirement. But also send your topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com, as well as participate in the chat room. We'll bring in, I have no problem. As this platform continues to grow, I am going to tell you right now, folks, I am looking for new talented blood. And this is a good opportunity for you to come on once. If we feel you're really good, you'll have multiple opportunities. So we're looking for you. I'm not as good as the U.S. Army out there that we want you. Although maybe I should go out there and hope I don't get nailed for that one. No, we want you as well. I mean, let's face it, we love what our military does for us, but there are a lot of people out there. We can tell you that I am definitely looking at bringing on new people. And one guy who definitely benefited by it.
You clicked on the wrong one. You got my dad's. That was great. I can't be a guest because my face breaks cameras.
You can go out there and talk about it all you want, but it's a wonderful opportunity. Mitch Weinstein found out that he had a lot of fun, and I'm going to take him under my wing to make sure that his continuous appearance let me tell you, for a guy that's never done this before with Mitch Weinstein, okay, I thought he did a pretty good job.
Yes,
and this is just the beginning. Of course, Ken Ballreich, you know what? You say you can't be a guest? Well, I've seen a lot of crazier things happen.
I don't know. I hear I look a lot like you, Dad, and my face hasn't broke the camera yet, but you know what? I do have a face for radio.
All right. Well, you know what? Thumbs up, as Mitch Weinstein would say. But there's ways to get on here.
Yeah.
And we're not going to make you look bad on the air, because when you come on here anyways, okay, we're going to give you a 15, 20-minute overview. So that way, all you got to do is listen and have fun. If you can't listen and have fun, then I don't know if I can make it a whole lot easier, Jeremy, than this.
No, there's no way to make it easier.
No. Again, our goal here is to have fun, entertain, and that's what it's all about. There's a whole wide world of people that we can bring on here, but we want to make sure that everybody has a good time. But we want them to believe in what we're doing as well, and that's what it's all about. And I'm going to create new shows as supply and demand develops it. We're also pleased to have Sideline Sports as a partner with us as well. They provide us with some great talent, and we certainly like to appear on their shows as well. So, Jeremy, we covered a lot of things tonight or this afternoon. Sometimes it feels like tonight because we're doing them at night, but I have to program my mind to do it in the morning. But I got to tell you, this morning thing is actually pretty good. I like it.
Yeah, and Sunday morning, 9 a.m., 10 a.m. in that area, there's not a lot out there for sports fans, and there's nobody talking about IMSA. There's nobody talking about soccer at 9 a.m. except maybe somebody in the UK, because they're at 3 o'clock in the morning and they just got through with watching a nil game running 2 hours in a 90-minute game. Then you got guys like us. We're going to talk about it. We're going to bring up billiards. We're going to bring up that stuff. Hey, I got guys that are amateur with a good enough average. They could probably be professional bowlers. And Mitch Weinstein says, hey, I will always talk soccer.
Well, but let me tell you, I can say one thing about soccer, and I will say this. Many years ago, I covered the North American Soccer League when the Fort Lauderdale Strikers, and let me tell you, they had some pretty good teams back in the 80s. I got my first taste of covering professional sports by covering soccer. The North American Soccer League Fort Lauderdale Strikers were great. That was a good experience. I had one of my best friends who to this day is like a brother to me by the name of Chip Namias. And he gave me an opportunity. And, then when he went to the Dolphins back then, I followed him over there. And Chip and I have been good friends for a long year. So JB Ellis is doing a good thing out with Sideline Sports, because he's trying to get his feel for covering sports by going out there and working with the Chicago Fire, I believe, of MLS over at Soldier Field. So let me tell you, the storylines are good. I'm sure the access is all right, but I think the sport's great, and that's really what it comes down to. And the way I look at it is, I think they're the most unbelievably conditioned athletes I have ever seen. I know full well, and this is a really funny story back in my days covering the Strikers. Chip goes out there and arranges a thing between the Fort Lauderdale Strikers front office versus, and us writers. And we ended up playing a game, Jeremy, on the practice field. You ready? And
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, on a practice field, which is about as half the size as a normal thing, I was gassed. And what was worse is I was caught off guard when somebody, uh, I fell to the ground because I got tripped up and I ended up spraining an ankle and found myself in the hospital. But here's the interesting part about the story, okay? Once I got to the hospital, I had to go to Miami Dolphins training camp and spent time with talking with Coach Don Shula. And Coach Shula mentioned something really interesting. Well, Scott, because by then he started to like me. He knew my name. I was just young, pup, like, but when you get an opportunity to work with Don Shula, it was just unreal. Should I put you? Should I cut you, or should I put you on injured reserve? And he's looking at me with this real Don Shula smirk, and he really is, because he knows he's like a father figure to everybody that comes in contact with this guy. Now, coach, to be honest with you, I would rather you put me on injured reserve, and that way I'm a part of the team. And he laughed, and they just gave me a big pat on the back. And when we were done with my interview, that was just great. I mean, Don Shula, if you're a young writer breaking out and you have an opportunity to work with an iconic coach, and I've worked with a lot of coaches over the years, that was incredible. Soccer, I have so much respect and admiration for. And there's no question, and I'm sure that MLS will probably have a couple more teams before it's over with. But
I'm just
so
waiting to have Alan Park recognize the stuff I've been doing and offer me an invite to interview at the pressers, because I think that would be like the best thing that ever happened to me.
but I think, folks, what we want you to take away from this show today, and I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself a lot. Let's just call it reinforcement for all intents and purposes,
Mm-hmm.
because I won't be saying a lot on future broadcasts. It's a major sports are good. Add up a news item or two. But let me tell you what, we're looking to build a culture here where the other sports matter. Because what few people don't understand is when you talk about collegiate athletics, okay, they also feature these sports as well. And that's what we believe in is, I can't tell you how many media releases I get from the University of South Florida, University of Florida Gators, and Florida Atlantic University Owls that talk about the secondary sports. And I'll tell you what, if they're awards based, I can't put every game story out there, but if they're awards based and they've done things academically, I mean, why do you not share them on social media? Which is one of the things that drew me to the conclusion that it was necessary to include those type of sports in here. And you got to remember when you're going to the Olympics, okay, there are the archeries, there are a lot of the auxiliary sports that most people don't get attention, but these athletes are competing for gold medals just like anybody else. Only they don't get as big a stage as the other ones. So,
Right.
we will. I guess to conclude it all, we will leave no stone unturned in this show. So, Jeremy, great first act here. Okay, and I look forward to us doing an awful lot of good things together. And I am just so glad that we were able to mention certain things. I want to bring up another Mitch Weinstein. One of my best friends is Arnie Mauser, and another one, Chip, is awesome. Well, Mitch, it's amazing how you remember him. Good stuff. And Candy Ebling, since you're the architect behind it all, great new show. And I'll tell you, how are the Florida schools doing in winter sports besides hockey? Well, I'll tell you what, Ken, Florida Atlantic and Miami made it to the Final Four. I'd say that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing pretty well. So, and of course now, Candy went out there and here I got to post this one up.
Yep. Wasn't it?
Gators just
I,
sent out a self-work review, which is on our website for 2 gold medals on the final day of the NCAA championship in track and field. Well, you
hey,
know what? You can talk about
congratulations to the
field too.
University of Texas. They did win the national championship in track and field.
Right. Well, so there you go. So you can talk about track and field being another one that we're going to be diving into as time goes on. So, any final thoughts here, Jeremy, about what we were looking to get accomplished today? I think our first act is one that I'm so looking forward to building on. But
Nope.
you're the other half.
Gators finished second. So yeah, the SEC was well represented there. The Texas is Big 12, SEC, great job. Fantastic. But my last little tidbit here is, we were talking about something different. We found it. And I think this is a great format to use. And going forward, if you like talking about these sports, reach out to Scott. Reach out to me. Either one of us. We'll see what we can do about getting you on here.
And I'm glad we thought about gymnastics. Mary Lou Rett, never heard of her. I'd say she was pretty good. Okay.
He was a little firecracker.
Yeah, wasn't she? You talk about track and field, a lot of great athletes out of there as well. So, weightlifting. Yeah. I mean, so I would lose my voice if I tried to go out there and mention them all. And I'd like to keep my voice for a little while longer. But you know what, folks? This has been a lot of fun. Jeremy and I have been planning this for a while. We're just so happy that we were able to get it started here on this beautiful June 11th day, 2023. And we're so delighted with the participation in the chat room. Then I am proud of every you that participated in the chat room. I'm looking forward to seeing more and more of y'all in the chat room as well. So go ahead, Jeremy.
And remember, going forward, anytime you watch our show, the goal is to have you like, subscribe, and share this podcast. Our broadcast is simulcast on my network too, because I want to branch us out to a broader spectrum of people. And what's wrong with educating a few football fans about that there's other sports than football?
I hate to say that you took the words out of my mouth, but you're not getting me to flip the cap. Okay, I'm not going to do it. But to say that great minds think alike and you took the words out of my mouth is worth ending this at the moment. So we want to thank everybody for their participation in the chat room. And that concludes this edition of The Professor and the Pupil, our debut edition. We will look forward to seeing you soon enough. So on behalf of Jeremy Ballreich, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of The Professor and the Pupil, our debut edition. And we look forward to seeing some of you folks on along with us, because there's two of us, but I got news for you. Ideally, we're going to have a guest on.
Because next week, we're not going to have this is not going to be like a weekly show. This is just going to be when we get the mood to do it. And I want to say in advance to everybody in the chat who is one, happy Father's Day, because next Sunday is Father's Day.
Well, I will disagree with you. It will be a weekly show.
Okay.
It will. I think it's just too good not to go ahead and have a
okay.
weekly show.
Okay, great.
No,
I talked about doing once a month there for a minute.
Well, no, but I have a feeling that based on what I've seen here today and the response we're getting, that this is going to be a weekly show. Folks, tune in on Sunday mornings for Scott and Jeremy here on The Professor and the Pupil. And once again, I'm very grateful for all those individuals that participated on today's show. And we look forward to seeing a lot more of you as time goes on. So for the last time, on behalf of Jeremy Ballreich, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition, our debut edition of The Professor and the Pupil. And we will see you the next time. Good night, everybody. Good night. Good afternoon, everybody. And hope you've had a great weekend. Bye now.